Hey guys, so due to the popularity and the amount of requests I had from the last video I made of my homemade STG blowback system, I was decided to make this video explaining how to do it. I've actually done a quick Google of people's blowback systems for their STGs, and I haven't actually found anyone, maybe someone did, but I didn't find one, explaining how they made it. And yet in all the comment sections of these videos, loads of comments saying, how did you do it? How did you make it? So hopefully this will shed some light on the methods. That said, I don't believe this is the best way you can do it. This is just the way I've done it with the parts that I've had available to me and the tools that I've had available to me. I bet there are better materials to do it with, and better ways of putting them together with different bits of machinery, such as something to make threading on iron rods or something like that, or steel rods rather. So yeah, let's get into it. So first of all, with your STG's gearbox, notice that it isn't one that comes in the AGM one. This is a new one that I've replaced it with. You must make sure that the spring guide has a hole going all the way through it. So, for example, I can stick the screwdriver going all the way through. Some of them have got a place here where it's blocked, so nothing can go through. You just need to make sure you can stick something through about 3-ish millimeters. That's what I've done anyway. They can get through there easily. If you don't have one of those, then this is not going to work, so you need to buy them. They're cheap anyway. I can't remember if the stock one has one. This is a metal bearinged spring guide, which I specifically got because it does have a hole going straight through it. I think it might be made by SHS. I assume it will be. Talking about SHS, for the best performance that you see in the one that I made as well, I'd recommend getting a high torque motor. You can see in this case I've got the SHS one, an amazing motor, very cheap compared to other makes as well, very good performance. Yeah, so if you don't get that, it's not going to be as snappy. I actually got a comment at the game that I went to last asking if my STG was gas blowback, which was quite funny. Although I can understand why, because it's very crisp trigger response on that. Okay, right, so the device that gets it working is simply this. Now you'll recognize this part. This is the fake bolt that's inside, and all I've done is I've got some of this 3M or M3 threading that I've literally just bought off eBay, very cheap, and then cut down to size. So there's a bit here, there's also a bit here, which I've covered with some 3mm in a diameter steel piping, which I've cut down as well. This is to give a bit more rigidity, because first time I tried this out, it completely warped and bent out of shape, which was no good, because every time I came out the game I had to bend it back into shape, and it doesn't do that anymore. You need to make sure that the bolts you use, or the nuts rather, have what's called thread lock used in them, which is this stuff. So this is like a sort of adhesive, except it doesn't completely bond like super glue or something. It's sort of more of a gunky stuff that keeps screws and stuff from unscrewing. And it's very important in this, because this is constantly going backwards and forwards when you're firing. These will just lock out of place, and everything will loosen, and suddenly you'll get nasty noises coming from your AEG. The reason I don't use super glue is because I might take this apart for some reason or another, and I want that ability to take it apart and then be able to put the stuff back relatively easily. This metal here is just some aluminium that I had lying around. It's just some aluminium sheeting. I think that's about 1.5 to 2 millimeters thick, and you just used multiple, I think that's five strips, cut down to size, and that's much easier than cutting something extremely thick out and then drilling through that. Again, you know, you might have the machinery to be able to do that, so go for it if you do. So with the thread lock, you just have to dab a tiny bit in there, and then screw that on. Make sure that's nice and tight. And that's basically it for this part anyway. So the way it works is this will slot into here, and then as the piston comes out, it hits that, which then returns with the return spring that comes with the gun, which I'll get onto a bit later. You do have to make sure though, you notice that this doesn't go all the way to the front, and there's a good reason for that. It's because there's not much room for this to actually go back before it starts hitting the buttstock. So I have shortened it to this length, so that it only comes back to about here, which is enough. You watch real videos of the STG, it doesn't actually go back that far, so that's not too bad. Now the buttstock, you will notice inside there's this part here. Now this, when it comes in the gun, is completely whole, but for you to get that extra distance to go down further, you need to cut that away. Now this was a bit tricky. I couldn't do it with a regular sort of circular cutting tool on a Dremel because you just can't get the angle in. But what I used was various sanding parts. Now these are the smaller ones, but you can get that in there, sand that away. It will take a bit of time, but that's how I did it, and that's fine. It works absolutely great. It gives enough room to go that extra couple of centimeters, which is a lot in this case. And also, I'll show you the other side. I did cut away a bit down here. That's for the wires for the battery. Now this is a bit of a sticky bit because if you don't tidy up your wires inside the gun, this will chew them to pieces, as I found the first time I took this out. So what I've done, I don't know what you guys will use, but I use stick 11.1 Lipos, this size, so that goes all the way down into the buttstock of the gun. I used to run them this way round, but now I run them this way round to keep the wires out of the way. So with this in, if I have it like that, this will be straight all the way. Can't really show you inside the gun, unfortunately, but you can fit this all the way down there. It will fit, and just a bit of protection on there just in case that bashes the battery too much, but this will all stay out the way if you keep it like this. If you do it like this way, it'll all bunch up. There won't be enough room for this to move around, and it'll just chew it all up, and you'll probably get either an exploding battery or a dead gun or whatever, which none of us want. So that's that bit. I'll show you the spring adjustments now. Okay, one thing to mention is about the return spring. Now as it comes, it's not very good at returning very quickly. and very snappily. So what I've done is I've just drilled another hole just here. You could probably do it about here actually. I think I've done a bit too much, but it's a balance between how snappy you want it and how quickly it's going to snap. The spring as in. I'm a bit skeptical about how long this one will last, but you never know. It might not snap ever. I don't know what it's made out of. Looks like quite good steel or something, so you never know. So screw that in there, and then I've just used some little bits of metal here to just keep it in place. That holds it nicely, and that will just mean that the spring returns much quicker, won't sort of bounce all over the place when it returns. And also on the bolt I've cut this very small trough here, you can see just there. Now that is important because if you don't do that, this will, every time that goes backwards and forwards, it'll hit one of the wheels, one of the cogs on your hop up, unless you've somehow managed to fit a rotary hop in. Yeah, so if you don't do that, it'll hit it, so you need to do this so it just avoids it completely. I'll show you when I put it in the gun right now. Alright, so as I mentioned, while the hop up is affected, you need to make sure that that bit's cut out, otherwise it'll affect this wheel here, and it will do it. Yeah, so just make sure you cut that bit out. You can use the sanding bits with the Dremel as before. Now, at the front of the gun, this is where things get a bit tricky. How AGM in their infinite wisdom decided to design this, everything screws in place. So if you just screw everything in place, you'll just twist the return spring so much that it'll probably snap, or at least come out of place. So you need to do it in a way that doesn't twist the spring. So I found that you have to use this to be able to pull the spring out, otherwise it's somewhere up here or something and you won't be able to grab it. So grab that with some pliers and then take the pen out. Get the whatever this is, screw that back in there, nice and tight, as tight as you can do it with your fingers, unless you've got someone else who can help you, and then screw it into whatever this is called. It doesn't need to be, it can just be finger tight, it doesn't need to be amazing. And you can see it's poked out the end here, so you can just attach that onto there. Another benefit of using these little metal bits to attach stuff on is you're sort of twisting it into the bit there. Okay, and then it just goes in place. And you put these bash these two pins back in. I've done this so much that these are just worn down enough that I can put them in without having to bash them in. Maybe not that one. Okay, we'll leave that one. And that's it. That now returns as expected. When you put the battery in, just make sure that this is nice and flattened out, extended out. When you put everything back in, you could just pull that back a bit, make sure it sort of goes enough back to know that it's not going to hit this. Let's do that now. So I put the battery in first. And then get this in the stock. This is extremely fiddly and doesn't always work, but it does. Alright, finally, when that's all in, you can then slot it up all in place, just all the time, just making sure that that's not hitting anything. And once it's all the way in, you can see through the hole, just jump the pin in there. One last check, and that's it. Test fire. There we go. Alright, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Trying to get this channel to grow, would be nice. Like and leave a comment. And I'll see you guys in the next video.